Hi guys, I'm Jen Johns. Welcome back to the channel. You have requested that I make a trolls cake for quite a while now, and I am super excited, so excited my hair stood straight up. What I'm going to be doing is showing you how to make this poppy troll cake. She's got a wonderful, beautiful isomalt hair here. We've got her sitting on a representation of her dress. Beautiful pink cake on the inside, and I'm super excited to show you how to make this cake. So let's get started. To make the cake, we're going to be using 2 round dome cakes. I use the ball pan to make these, and I'm using my vanilla cake batter and coloring it pink. I've also got 3 8-inch round cakes to go with it. We're going to be using some pink isomalt nibs. We're going to be using some blue, these are 6-lets, or you could use mini gumballs. And I've got a bunch of different colors of fondant. We need white, light blue, a turquoise, light pink, dark pink, black, green, and a lime green. We need some white gel coloring, and we need some pink luster dust. And then for vanilla buttercream, I've colored it a very, very light pink, a kind of a sky, nice bright blue, a really light blue, and then a medium colored sky blue. So what I've got here, what we're going to do first is make the hair out of isomalt nibs. Now the isomalt nib is basically just this little piece, and what we're going to do is melt it. So I choose to do it in the oven. You just want to put it in an oven-safe container. I heat it at 350 degrees until it melts completely. You can also do it in the microwave in 20-second intervals, or you can do it in a saucepan over a low heat, and you're looking for complete liquidization of the isomalt. If you don't have the nibs, you can also make it the way that I showed you in the rainbow lava cake tutorial, and you can follow that same instruction. If you don't want to use isomalt, you can also just use regular sugar, but isomalt is a lot easier to work with in my experience. So I'm just going to melt this, and then we'll be back to do the hair. While the isomalt is melting, what I've done is set up my isomalt station basically. I'm going to be flinging the isomalt across the top of these 2 bread pans. On top of the bread pans, I have parchment paper with a little bit of butter used underneath them to help the parchment paper stick. I'm doing it on top of here instead of directly flat on the table because I found that if I did it directly on a hard surface, it basically compacted more than I wanted it to, and I want it to be a little bit lighter and fluffier, which I found helps when you're having an elevated place here. Now I also here have an old whisk that I've taken, and I've just snipped off the parts where it combines, like when it's all squeezed together. I used a wire cutter to just trim that off, and this is making a basically a sugar spinning tool. Those tend to be quite expensive, at least the ones that I could find, and I opted for a DIY yourself, and it does the trick perfectly. So I'm going to get the isomalt when it's melted and show you what to do next. Once the isomalt has melted and is a liquid, it is extremely hot, so you do want to be careful. And that's why I've got it sitting here in a cake pan, because I don't want to touch the container. So I just want to get my whisk in here and get a little bit covering it, and then just kind of go back and forth across the parchment here. And I'm just kind of grabbing it as it gets to one end. If you're doing this with kids, obviously this would be something that the adult would have to do. And then what I'm just going to keep doing is just continue to dip it into my melted isomalt and then go across the top continually. And then if your isomalt starts to get too thick that you're not able to do this part, you just want to pop it back into the oven or however you melted it. And if you bring it out and it's too thin, you're going to find that you're getting drops of isomalt. And that just means that it's too hot and you're not able to spin it properly. So I'm just going to keep doing this part until I get a nice huge amount of hair for our poppy cake. So I've spun out the isomalt and I've got it on my largest cake board. I want to keep it as long as I can for as long as I can before I go to trim it for the actual cake. Now I have big chunks of isomalt where it was just like too runny. So I've got a whole bunch down here in this corner. All you have to do to remove those is just snip them off. You can break them off, but I just found that more control comes with a pair of scissors. Now you can keep those and just kind of pile them together in another container, and you can remelt them. That's the cool thing about isomalt, is you can reuse any of this extra stuff that you didn't use to start with. So I'm just going to kind of trim it and clean it up a bit. The ice melt off to the side, what I'm working on now is my 8-inch round cakes. I've got them all layered and leveled off here, and I'm just going to take some of the pink buttercream and I'm going to smooth it on to in between each of the layers here. I'm just taking my offset spatula and my turntable. I'm just kind of working that around to a nice thin layer. Just working that. And then I'm going to take my next layer, I'm going to pop that onto the cake. You can wipe off your spatula with the old stuff from the other layer and repeat that here. And then we're going to pop the third layer on top. Now, because I'm switching colors at this point to the outside, what I want to do, I just want a little bit more actually, what I want to do with the cake at this point before I go to do the outer colors, which are going to be the blue, I want to make sure that it's nice and frozen solid here because I don't want the buttercream to move at all because then my cake layers will become uneven. And I'm going to need to kind of press against the side in order to get the blue ombre that I'm looking for on the outer layers of the buttercream. So I'm going to put my final layer on here and now I'm going to pop this all into the freezer. With the bottom layers of the cake in the freezer, I'm going to work on the troll's head now. So I've got half of the dome here attached to a 4-inch round cake board just with some buttercream. I'm going to take my pink buttercream again and I'm going to put the filler in between the layers here of this one. Working with small cakes is a little bit trickier, might have to support it. And then I'm going to take that top half of the ball cake and then flip that upside down. And now I'm going to cover the entire thing here in the pink buttercream. Once you've got the icing in between the layers nice and cold, you can start taking your buttercream that is blue. And I'm going to pipe on a couple rows of this light blue at the bottom, just taking my turntable, spinning it around, and then moving up a step here. I'm going to reposition my bag. So I'm just trying to maintain kind of like a steady pressure. You don't need to have it be in any sort of like clean line or anything because we're going to blend it all anyway. So I'm just squeezing here and then I'm going to be taking a large flat icing scraper. You could also use a fondant smoother or a fondant spatula if you prefer. Going around the end here, running out of this color, squeeze the last little bit on there. It will blend, so it's no big deal. And then I'm going to take my darkest blue at the top, and this is dark blue is going to cover the entire top of the cake as well, but I will do that afterwards. So I'm just going to go around one more time, kind of trying to get the edge there and the top. And then I'm taking my flat scraper. I'm just going to press it up here against the side of the cake. Press into it very slightly, make sure you keep it flat, and I'm just going to scrape along here. You might have to go around a couple of times to make sure you've got all those holes filled in if you end up with any, and I'm just trying to keep it nice and smooth. With our cakes ready to be transferred and put together, what I've got here marked is the 4-inch round diameter of the board that's underneath the ball. And I just want to make sure that my dowels that I put in are going to go within that boundary there. So I'm just taking these wood dowels and pressing them down into the cake. And we want to make sure that they're just slightly under there. And these are going to act as support for the cake that we are going to put on top because that ball is quite heavy. The cardboard will help distribute the weight of it, and then the dowels will obviously support it. So you just want to put that onto there like that. If you want to secure it a little bit more with an additional dowel through the entire thing, like if you're transporting it, make sure you do that as well. So now I'm going to cut some of the isomalt hair to get on the top. I'm just going to gather it. It is quite breakable, so you just want to be fragile with it. And I'm just using a pair of scissors. Where I cut is going to be what I place onto the head because it does kind of all cut in the exact same area and it's quite straight. So I don't really want to have it to be too neat on the top here. So I'm just going to gently press that into some fresh buttercream that I put on there just so it sticks a bit better. And it becomes a lot more stable after I am able to get a little bit more on. If you cut it jagged too, that helps a little bit as well. Just gathering it and placing it on top here. So what I'm going to do is just cover the whole back here of the head, making sure that this stuff at the top is the highest because that's where Poppy keeps her ponytail. just going to continue to cut and put it onto the head here. So what I'm going to do now is cut out some of the bangs for her out of fondant. The reason that I'm using fondant instead of the isomalt is the isomalt, when it gets super clumped together like these bangs would be, it doesn't look fabulous. So that's why I'm decided to go kind of this route with the bangs. So just cut a couple here. Again, you can see that I just went totally, kind of just curved and wiggly and whatever. And I'm going to take a couple different of tools here, and I'm just going to score the fondant and give it some sort of definition here that's going to look more similar to hair. And you can use all sorts of sharp tools to do this. You could use a toothpick if that's all that you have. Using both ends here of my veining tool gives you a different look to each. So I'm going to do this for a full set of bangs. So I've marked the center of the forehead, and what I'm going to do is just take my bang pieces and I'm just going to lay them on here. We're going to be covering up this area where the hair and the bangs meet with the headband that she has. So you don't have to worry too much about keeping this part together or like smooth and flawless. You can just kind of get it on there. And just trying to kind of balance them, give a little bit different dimension on here to her face. Just give it a little bit of framing. Once you have the bangs on, you can work on the headband itself. I have my ribbon cutting tool here, and the distance between my cutters is 3/4 of an inch. And I just press that into my fondant and make sure it stays down. And I'm just going to make kind of as long of one as I can because I want it to wrap entirely around her head there. And you're going to, any of this part that's kind of still rough, you just want to take a fondant tool and just smooth it. You can also smooth it with your fingers. This just does a little bit of an easier job of that. Once we've got the ribbon cut, we can take it and just carefully place it on top of the head there. You're going to cover up as much as the bangs as you can. Now we are going to be putting the flower detail on there, so anything that we've got gapping there, we can absolutely cover it up. And I'm just slowly, carefully fitting it around the head here. And I want to bring it to the back here and have it meet. And you can use a little bit of water to have it secure in place. For the headband, we need to add the flower pieces that she has on her headband. Just taking a 5-petal flower cutter here and cutting out 3 of these. You can also do extra ones for the top of the cake if you choose to. And then I'm using some lime green for the little petals that go behind it, just using this cutter. And I'm going to cut 3 of those out as well. I'm going to have to roll some more out here. Might be able to fit it in. There we go. And then you just want to make sure that you've got them all cleaned before you put them onto the cake. And so we're going to take a fondant tool and just pick it up and then kind of just work in those edges, smooth those edges out, and then we can put the 2 different pieces together. So I'm going to take a little bit of water and I'm just going to dab it on to the headband where I want to put the flower. A little bit more than that will help. There we go. And then I'm going to just transfer the flower up to that spot and just want to kind of slide it on there and place it on the headband there. And then just using this little fondant tool, I'm just going to poke a little star-shaped hole in the center, just like that, to give it a little bit of dimension. Now I'm going to add a couple more on the other sides. Now we're going to work on the pieces for her face. So what I've got here is a nice long piece of fondant rolled out. I'm using the hot pink one. And we're going to just cut little pieces for her eyebrows. So a couple, probably about an inch long. And then I'll cut a little bit more off the end here for this. I'm going to leave this as her mouth, just the smile part. So you want to shape that ahead of time. And then you also can roll off the other end here of the eyebrows. You can just make them a little bit more pointed on the end so you don't just have that rough part where it was cut. So I'm going to do that part to these. And then these little pieces will go on the end here of her little smile, kind of at the start of her cheeks. And then we're going to shape her nose. So I've just got a round piece here of the hot pink. And what I'm going to do is just roll it into a kind of a cylinder shape here, or an oval here. And once you've got the fondant nice and warm, you can take it, and I'm just going to pinch the ends. And at the same time as pinching the ends, I'm kind of pushing it together. Pushing together and pushing it down. And I'm just trying to shape it so like it's got the big bulb here in the middle, a little bit of her nose there. And then it's narrower towards the outside. And you can make it a little bit flatter like that. And you just kind of want to shape it to be like her nose is on in the cartoon. So we've got that kind of done there. And then we're going to work on the ears now. So I've got 2 pieces of the light pink rolled out here, and I'm just going to kind of press into the center there, just using my finger that way. And then I'm going to pinch kind of a bit at the sides, making it higher, and then kind of bringing the edge in there together at the top and together at the bottom. And then I'm going to take my veining tool and just kind of add to those wrinkles. And I'm just going to make a little bit of some definition on the inside there of the ear. So you want to let these dry and harden slightly just for a little while. So now we're going to make the eyes. So I've got some white fondant rolled out here, and I'm going to take an oval cutter and I'm going to cut it out like that. Obviously you'll have to do this twice for 2 eyes. There we go. And then I'm going to take a small circle cutter and cut out the pink part and just pop that out with a little assistance like that. And you can place it on top in the center. And if you want to use some water to stick them together, I'll do that at the very last because I don't want to stick them together yet. And now I'm using the top of a 2A tip because I need a smaller circle for the pupil, and then putting that into the center. Just going to use some of my little fondant tools to kind of move this around here. And this is the finicky kind of part. Well, not as finicky as the eyelashes, which are next, but we're just going to kind of try to manipulate this guy over to the center a little bit. Now, if you take the end of a small fondant roller, you can press straight up and down, and then just try to kind of like almost blend it into the ends here. I'm trying to get my eye to kind of flatten out first of all, and then also just kind of blend together so it's not so up and down and, you know, a big huge mess here. So I'm just kind of smoothing that out and around like that. And then I'm going to take a tiny piece of white fondant, and I'm just going to make a teeny tiny little highlight, and I'm going to put that in the top corner over here. And if I can get it to unstick, whoopsies, I'm just going to take a little bit less. You need just a tiny bit to highlight that eye at the top here. Just trying to get it to pop off my finger. There we go. And then just kind of work that up into the corner where you want it. And then again, you can take either a ball tool or the end of your rolling pin and just kind of tap it into place, which is going to flatten it and make it nice and round as well. So now we're going to take this long piece of black fondant that I've rolled out, and I'm going to take a little dab of water, and I'm just putting the water around the top here of the eye. And this is what's going to, the black part's going to stick to that. I'm going to wrap it around most of the top of the eye here. So about halfway to halfway, kind of around there, about like that. And then taking a knife, I'm just going to kind of cut that off like that, smooth that down. You can use your fondant tools for that. And then I'm going to cut off 3 little lashes. They're just going to get smaller as we go. And then again, take some water, and then towards the outside edge, we're going to put the largest one first and just stick that there. And what I found helps to stick it is to take the end of your tool and just kind of manipulate it and kind of press it into the fondant there, trying to just push it in so it's got something to stick to. And the longer you leave it while it's drying, the better it will be, and it will stick a lot better as long as you've left it a little bit so it's not still wet when you try to pick it up and move it. So again, I'm going to put this next one in and just kind of coax that into place here. Come on, little eyelash. More finicky than working on your own. There we go. Push that in, pushing that in there. And you can always like straighten out and kind of like make them a little bit pointy if you choose to, like that. And then I'll put the third one in. I'm just rolling the end there. Try to get it a little bit pointy ahead of time. Super small pieces are hard to work with. and then roll that and kind of coax that part down into here like that. So you want to repeat that with another eye, and then you obviously want to let that dry, and then they'll be ready for the cake. The last piece of fondant work that we need to do is some detailing on the lower cake, the blue one. This is to represent her dress. So I'm taking a larger flower cutter and I'm cutting it out of light blue fondant, and I'm going to need to do 8 of these to fit all the way around the cake. So what you're going to do is just cut those out like that, and then you can clean the edges like we've been doing all along. So just clean those up. When you're doing larger flowers like this, the veining tool does work quite well for that. So once I've got this all cleaned up around the edges, I'm just trying to do it fast here. I'm going to take my ball tool, and in the center here of the flower, I'm just going to make a little dot basically. And then I'm going to take some water on the end of my little brush here, and that's going to help the little sixlet stick in there. If you want to do that directly onto the cake, that works as well too. It might actually even work a little bit better. So I'm going to do all of those and then attach them onto the cake with just a little bit of water. So we're going to put on all of our facial features to finish off the cake. I've got a toothpick here to mark where the nose I want it to go. So I'm just going to press that into place there. And then I'm going to assemble all of the other facial features around the nose there. The eyes I want to be quite close together because that's how she looks in the video. So once I've got all these little features together here, I'll be back to show you the finished product. So there you go, everybody, how to make this trolls cake with Poppy as our guest star here. Now I added a little bit of luster dust and some of the white coloring to her cheeks to give her freckles. If you want to be notified every single time we upload a video or we go live, make sure you touch that notification bell beside the subscribe button, and you will be. Now, thanks so much for watching. Leave me a comment if you want me to make a cake for you. Let me know what you want and I'll do my best to come through for that. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys all again next time.